How you doing today, class? Today we're going to do something a little different. This is called a flipped classroom. And what a flipped classroom is where I do the lecture and I put it up on YouTube or someplace for you guys to watch it on your own time, so that way we have more time in class um, to work on our other work that we have to get finished. This is just going to be a test, so I want to see how this works out. So for today's lesson, we'll be learning about haikus. And so today you will be able to understand what a haiku is, learn its history, and differentiate haikus, different between haikus and other poems. So what is a haiku? A haiku is a poem where there are 5 syllables, followed by 7, and followed by 5 a second time. These are usually short poems, and they're to a point, and most of the time they're about nature. So a little bit of history on a haiku. Original haikus are originally from Japan back in the 7th century. They used to call the poems uta as a part of early religious rituals. And fast forward to the 1800s, this man Masaka Shiki began creating poetry. He combined 2 different types of poetry called haikai and hoku and created the haiku. And they ended up coming to the Western culture, which is our culture, until in the 1950s. So some usual topics that are discussed in haikus are normally focused on nature. And as the years progressed, and they've been more westernized, topics have expanded into mainstream topics that we talk about today, such as love, hate, dreams, etc. But the majority of poems still written today are still written about nature. So for the next time that we meet in class, we will be writing our own different haikus on a different topic that I will give you. So I will say something along the lines of, think of love and write a haiku about it, or think of hate or dreams, etc. So I want you to please be ready to share and be ready to write. I have a video for you guys to watch. It's about 5.5 minutes long, 4.5, 5.5 minutes long. That's going to explain a couple of things about haikus.
Today we'll talk about the 4 common characteristics of the haiku, and also a little bit about why you may enjoy writing haiku. Some people meditate, some cry, and still others make it rain on their local shrink. There's nothing wrong with any of these things, but when I need to release tension, I write. It's not even about being sad or depressed. It's often pent-up joy that'll make my head explode if I don't get it out on paper. Now, not everybody's like that, or maybe a better way to put it is this: not everyone knows they're like that. That's why I wanted to share the misunderstood art of haiku. Haiku is kind of amazing because it's not just an art form, it's a form of meditation, therapy, and a healthy release of emotion. It's also a great way to sharpen your brain. If you enjoy nature and appreciate poetry, the haiku is certainly for you. The haiku allows for many different forms of art to be expressed, but in the spirit of haiku, I'd like to simplify what I have to say to 4 unique and specific goals. These are common themes in both ancient haiku and modern alike. The first characteristic of the haiku I'd like to go over is that it's always light, mainly in word density. The feeling of lightness is called karumi. It's the art of cutting the use of words to a bare minimum while retaining the fullness of its meaning. The traditional form is 3 lines, like so: 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and 5 syllables in the third line. 5, 7, 5. We'll take a look at one of Basho's haiku masterpieces that demonstrates this form in a moment. The second common characteristic of haiku is nature. Nature is used to communicate complex thoughts. emotions, ambiguous feelings, and elaborate social dynamics are just a few of the things effectively communicated in the haiku poem. Traditionally, these subjects are painted on the canvas of nature. The poem may be a metaphor. It may hold the weight of symbolism. It could be satire, blatant sarcasm, or an abstract expression of love. But it's nearly always demonstrated by something in nature, which includes weather, animals, plants, wind, and whatever else you see in nature. The third characteristic is juxtaposition. If you've never heard of juxtaposition, I'll tell you this. It's not as complex as its name seems to imply. Juxtaposition is simply a contrast you place in the haiku to surprise your reader or yourself when you come back to read it years later. In describing the tranquility of a mountain, you may refer to it as the shattering silence, or say, the silence was deafening. The fourth and probably most important characteristic of the haiku is expressing feelings and emotions. Rarely is the feeling itself named. A good haiku doesn't say, I felt sad. It says, my life is cold and dark and dreary. That's an excerpt from one of Longfellow's not-so-haiku poems, but an awesome poem nonetheless. Like all forms of good writing, it shows the reader the emotion, painting a picture and composing a song that resonates in the heart of the person reading it, who has felt these emotions as well. Common ground, agreement, empathy, that's what we're going for. There's many other things to be said about the haiku, but this is more than enough to get you started. At least it will be when you take a look at this beautiful haiku and find all of the elements mentioned above. This haiku was written by the father of haiku himself, Matsuo Bacho. Frog haiku. In Japanese, and I'm sure I'll get this pronunciation absolutely completely wrong, but it goes something like this. Furu yuki ya kawazu tobikomu misu no oto. Again, I'm sure my pronunciation is absolutely awful, but I can do this one right. In English, this is what it sounds like. Frog haiku. A lonely pond in age-old stillness sleeps, apart, unstirred by sound or motion, till, suddenly into it, a lithe frog leaps. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm a great haiku poet, or even a good poetry reader, but if Basho's frog haiku resonates with you in any way, you may enjoy finding the elements of the haiku in this masterpiece of simplicity. I'll add the main points and the frog haiku in the description below, and I hope it helped. Well, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like below and subscribe if you feel so inclined.
That's it, class. See you next time.